This is the Let's Get Real Estate Show with your host, Danielle Chason.
Full-time investor, strategic consultant, motivational coach, sought-after speaker,
and host of your #1 real estate investing show, Let's Get Real Estate,
where real people are doing real estate.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Let's Get Real Estate podcast. And today I'm super excited to have with me Randy Molland. Randy, how are you?
I'm doing awesome today, coming off of our incredible weekend we just had. So just feeling really inspired and excited today.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening, Randy's actually one of the founders of the Synergy Mastermind, and that's a high-level Canadian mastermind. It's a tight little group of investors that get in there. I happen to be a member, which is where Randy and I connected, and we just had a live event. We're just so stoked. I might be a little bit tired today, but you know what? I'm just so stoked coming off of that weekend. I'm ready to get back into the grind and really just implement everything that we learned. It was just so nice to be around a whole bunch of like-minded people, and I'm really excited to share that with everybody. Randy, you guys did awesome with that, by the way. So I just want to say thank you publicly on that. But anyway, yeah, so for those of you who are listening, if you don't know anything about Randy, Randy is on the west coast of Canada. He's out in Victoria. And him and his business partner, Steve Arneson, they have created this massive, just network and empire around real estate. Started in single family JVs and then moved into smaller multifamilies, and now are doing development deals. They've partnered with a developer. They're doing really fantastic on the West Coast. And in the interim, they also give back to the community, and they also have created this. You still do the monthly mastermind, right, Randy?
Yeah, we still run a monthly meetup every single month. We take summer months off, but been 5 years strong that we were running that monthly meetup.
5 years strong. And it's people just pop into that, and they're so loyal to you because you guys just do such an amazing job. So that's the Reinvestors community. And then you've got the Synergy Mastermind. Then you've got your business, which is just so much going on for you. I don't know how you do it. I aspire to be you, my friend. So here we are. So let's share with the audience a little bit. Why don't you, I know you and I have talked, and we talked a lot about kind of the mindset and how important mindset is. I mean, everybody talks about this. This is something that's been hammered down, but you are the epiphany of how real estate is really just a vehicle to where you need to go. And for you, that was really mindset and getting your mind right. And I think a lot of people resonate with that, because for myself, when I decided to do this full time, I was looking for something different in my life. And that's because I wasn't happy where I was. And you did the exact same thing. And you shared a little story about, not a little story, an amazing story about your mentor, and that was kind of the start of that. Would you mind sharing with the audience kind of what launched all of that?
Yeah, there's a quote that I kind of coined that just says, when the pain gets bad enough, that's when somebody will make a change. And so when you see all these people out there that are having all the success, and they've made these career changes, and they've done all this stuff, it's usually because some sort of pain has caused them to make this transfer. Unfortunately, my pain was the loss of one of my best friends. And I was a journeyman electrician growing up. By the age of 22, I had my journeyman's ticket, and very lucky to be mentored by a guy named Rob, who took me under his wing and really just saw something in me that nobody had seen before. And one of the things he kept telling me every single day was, dude, why are you here being an electrician? You have so much potential. Why are you here? Look at yourself. You're 22, you're running these job sites. What are you doing? But he kept pushing me further and further in that career, and really just became like a big brother role for me. We became best friends. We worked out of town a lot together. So we spent a lot of time just living in a remote location, doing a lot of work. And unfortunately, one day, out of complete blue, he was in a job site accident and lost his life. And it is the pain that caused me to go down this road of wanting something different. So the first instinct that I had when he passed away was, man, that sucks. And he was 42 years old. And I was just sitting there going, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Do I want to work for another 20, 30 years to get hit by a telephone pole and then lose it all overnight. Like that's kind of the mindset that I went into, and was very fortunate enough to get some great counseling. I was very supported by a lot of people, and along the way, I just realized that my pain was so bad that I didn't want to just live this Monday to Friday 9 to 5 life anymore. I really wanted to see what the potential I had was, and I actually have a quote right here beside me that I keep beside me every day, and it says, "You are so much more than an effing electrician," and then it's signed by him, and is actually his girlfriend that gave it to me when he passed away. And I look at it every single day and I just think like, man, like it was his, what he saw in me is what's pushing me now to see what my true potential actually is in this life, and to just see how far I can really go.
What a story. That is such a powerful story. Now, a lot of people, like, again, I think in your 20s, I mean, you go through cycles in life, and in your 20s, you're trying to figure out who you are. And I certainly went through that. And for you, you had an awesome mentor to help guide you and teach you and elevate you into believing that you could be more than what you are. I think a lot of people don't have that. And so I hope that that message can resonate with a lot of the younger people that are in the audience listening to this, saying, hey, look, even though you may not have somebody in your life that tells you you can, let us tell you that you can. And for myself, I was later on in life, and I think that happens a lot. You do what you're supposed to do. So you finally ground yourself in your 20s. And actually, you had that story. You told me, if I remember correctly, you told me you had a goal of when you were 22, you were going to get your journeyman's ticket. When you're 23, you're going to buy a house. When you're 24, you're going to, 23, you're going to buy a truck. 24, you're going to buy a house. 25, you're going to get married. And then 26, you're going to have, so like, those are what we are conditioned to do, right? And a lot of us do that. I certainly did that. And then later on in life, later than you, realized that, hey, this is not for me. I don't feel fulfilled. So you kind of got 20 years on me, which is awesome. So what happened to you in that moment when you realized this is not what I want to do? So how do you change that? Like, what do you do? What do you do to make a change?
Yeah, you Google how to make as much money as possible and never work again. That's literally what changed my life. So when Rob passed away, I was doing a lot of counseling, and one of the things that my counselor said is like, "What's exciting for you?" And I was going through this mind of like, I just don't want to work anymore. I want to inspire people. I want to show what's capable. I want to do this. And there's two parts to it. One, he said to me, "What's one of the best things you've done in the past while?" And 2 weeks before Rob had passed away, I just bought a house in the same neighborhood as him. And he greeted me with a 6-pack in the morning and said, "Here's your present. We're not going to work today. We're just going to have some beers and hang out in the house." And so that was my last memory with him. And so that was very cool for me. But when the counselor asked me that, I said, honestly, buying this house was one of the most biggest accomplishments I've ever done. To be able to buy a home at 25 years old and have the ability to do that was a huge accomplishment. He said, "Why don't you focus the next little while on how to buy the next house?" And I said, "There's no way. I don't know how to do that. Like, I just spent all my money, 25 years of my life saving up to buy this house. How do I get the next one?" He said, "Well, isn't that going to entertain you or keep you occupied for the next while you do this?" And I was like, that's kind of cool. So when I went home, I Googled how to make a ton of money and never work again. And real estate was the first thing that popped up. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first book to come up. And from there, I just went all in and said, hey, this is it. I'm going to go see what I can happen in real estate, and just literally immersed myself. Like, I've done a lot of coaching and mentoring along the way. And one of the things I've realized is that people don't understand the commitment that it takes to make a change. I'm talking like I would wake up at 4 a.m. and go for a run and go to the gym. And then I would meditate and read. I've never meditated before. I've never read before. I was a trades guy. I was kind of rough around the edges, redneck trades guy. So for me to openly say that I meditated to my friends was super weird. For me to openly say that I was reading and hadn't read a book since I was in grade 9, like it was just super weird for me. But I had to get into that state, and how I wanted to go make those changes to get there. So I fully immersed. So I'd wake up, I'd read, I'd do a lot of stuff. I'd go to work from 7 to 3 with a podcast in all day, trying to understand real estate. I'd come home, I'd hop on YouTube and I'd study YouTube and take notes until like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then I'd do it all again the next day. And I did that for months and months and months of just pure dedication. My friends would all invite me out for beers and dinners, and I'd be like, sorry, I'm going to stay in and study real estate. Sorry, I'm going to read a book. And for a friend group that was young, single, having fun, living their life, it was a very hard decision for me to make, but it was one that I knew I wanted to make because it was the only way I was going to be able to change my entire life around, to go into this new journey that I was trying to create.
And I would say, like, you're mentioning that. I think, talking about your mentor and talking about your friends, your mentor was the right guy for you to encourage and elevate you, and maybe your friends were the opposite. And so, would you say that was one of the challenges that you had, just making that shift into doing what you wanted to do or going after what you wanted and creating the life that you wanted to achieve? Would you say that was one of the challenges?
It was the hardest thing I think I had to do, aside from dealing with the grief of one of my best friends. But I grew up with friends that our whole thing was get a job, work, try and buy a house, and then just work, 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 work. And nobody talked about pain. Nobody talked about self development. Nobody's talking about their feelings. Nobody's talking about reading. We all didn't really go to university. We were all just trades guys. And when I started going down this journey, I started realizing a lot about limiting beliefs, money mindsets, and those conversations. And when you're talking to people that are saying, I wish one day I could be rich. Oh, people are so lucky. Look at that guy in that Lamborghini. He's so lucky. To change your mindset and be like, wow, I'm inspired by that. He's not lucky. He freaking worked for that. And I know that he did that. So I actually had to leave a lot of my really close friends and just stop hanging out with them and go finding new friends. And it's literally like moving to a whole new town and trying to find a new group of friends, but in a smaller echelon of people. There's not a lot of people out there that are into the self development and the success and stuff. So a lot of my mentors actually started becoming like my friends. So, for example, I was wiring houses. I was in the custom house space. I wouldn't I wouldn't finish my day and go off with the guys and go have a beer. I'd finish my day and try and sit with the homeowner and talk to him and get to know him and learn about how did you create your success? How did you buy this house? I was wiring multi-family duplexes and triplexes and buildings. I wouldn't sit there and talk to the foreman. I'm going right to the owner. I'm trying to show like, hey dude, I've lost my best friend. I really want to get into real estate. How do I get around you? How do I learn more? I'll stay after hours. I'll work for free to learn. So I did a lot of free electrical work for mentors to start getting into their circles. And suddenly that's who I started hanging out with. I was just hanging out with people that had money, had success, had apartments, had this kind of thing. And honestly, when you get into that space and you're willing to commit and you're willing to show this effort and you're like a full on addict into learning how to succeed and grow, mentors want to take you in and help you out. So a lot of my friends actually became 50 to 70-year-old wealthy people that just wanted to show me the ropes and teach me some stuff and teach me along the way. So I went from hanging out with a bunch of 25-year-old friends, going to the bar, having the time of our lives, doing what we wanted to do, to hanging out with a lot of these people at their nice mansions, learning, studying, taking notes. They give me tasks to do. They, no joke, literally what they say about, hey, I want you to go home and I want you to do these 10 things. And if you don't do those 10 things, don't bother coming back. Like go home and do the 10 things that night and go back the next day and say, I did it. And so that really built a lot of trust. So I had to make that shift of what's more important to me, being 25, hanging out, having fun, getting drunk and partying and living your life of what everyone says to do, of enjoy your 20s, versus grinding out and waking up at 4 a.m, working out and being successful and doing this. Massive mind shift, but was probably one of the single biggest things I did that changed my life forever, was separating my lives and going after the one that I wanted at that time.
Yeah, and you know what? I went through that as well, and I know a lot of people that have interviewed the same thing. It's like you can't have the same you can't have these conversations that we're having here on this podcast with the people in your life that were pre-real estate or pre-self development. You just can't have those conversations. So when you separate that, now I didn't eliminate everybody in my life. I just don't talk about everything I do today now with my friends from my 20s and my family especially. Did you find you had any challenges even with your family?
Extremely with my family. So my family grew up very lower income. middle class. So we had the things that we needed, but single income dad and a very stay at home loving mom. So I was very loved. I'm very fortunate to be very loved, but we just didn't have a lot of the things that a lot of my friends did. And when I started getting into this success, first thing I did was spend $15,000 on a training program for real estate. And my parents could not fathom what I was doing. For them, it was like, that's a lot of money to a single income family raising two kids. That's a new car that they never got to have. That's this. And here I was at 25 years old, just bought a house, and I'm putting a $15,000 training program on a visa. They couldn't conceptualize it. Now, the one thing I will say, my parents always believed in me. They always said, "Do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy." So when Rob passed away, that was the first thing my parents said is, "We'll support you in anything you want to do." And I told my parents that I wanted to become an entrepreneur and get into this space. And they said, "Whatever you need, we support you." Now, did they believe what I was doing? Not 100%. Did they support me with it? 100%. But they couldn't understand why I was doing it. We're 6 years into this journey now, and my parents just invested for the first time into real estate in the last year. So it took me about 4.5 years of them watching me do this. They didn't understand. There was a point, I'll say this, there was a point where my net worth got bigger than my parents, and it was a hard realization for both of us, for them to realize, wow, what we're doing is not working, and we're not set up for retirement. And me going, wow, I'm already set up for retirement and I'm doing great at 30. Mom and dad, I think we need to have a conversation. That one conversation was the hardest conversation to ever have. Simply asking my parents, "Mom and dad, how are you going to retire?" And the look on their face was, "We'll figure it out." They didn't know. It literally was not one of the things that they knew how to do. And I'm very lucky that my parents loved me enough to trust me, that I've now supported them in building retirement and changing their lives and buying in. But the first 2 to 3 years of me spending all this money on training and education and learning, and leaving my job, my secure job, and not understanding why I would leave an industry where I was having such success and to go try something new, was a very hard conversation. But the biggest thing I had was that they loved and supported me no matter what I was doing. And I know there's people that don't have it. And if you don't have that, go find somebody that does. They don't actually have to physically understand what you're doing, but just find someone who loves and supports you. And that was the biggest thing I had with Rob and my parents and all my mentors. Everyone just loved and supported me and just said, "You can do whatever you put your mind to. Look what you've done so far. Anything you put your mind to, you can do."
I think there's a lot of value in what you just shared there with the audience, because ultimately the environment you create around you will dictate whether or not you thrive, or if you maybe spin your wheels in the mud. Because having that support really makes a huge difference. And having those mentors and parents that are supportive, a spouse maybe. And by the way, I just want to say this, it doesn't have to be a spouse, and it doesn't have to be your parents. If your spouse is not on board with what you're doing, it's completely okay to have a best friend cheering you on, or maybe another colleague who's also doing it, and you can support each other on your journeys. But it's important to have that. And I think the biggest thing that they bring to you is validation that, hey, what you're doing is awesome, and continue doing it. And so that support just really elevates you through the tough times. I know for myself, it was priceless. It is priceless. But I just want to say to the audience, it is done by design. It doesn't come to you. You really have to create it. You have to create that environment around you in order to get that support. Would you agree with that?
Oh, our monthly meetup is the biggest testimonial we have for this exact thing that you just shared. People come into our monthly meetup. It's not a super high level monthly meetup. We just have mortgage brokers, real estate agents, lawyers, accountants come in and speak on different topics. The number one thing we hear from people that come in is, "Wow, I've been looking for a group of people like this my entire life. I've kind of felt like an outcast to my friends. I kind of wanted to explore. I bought a rental property. Everyone thought I was crazy. Like, oh, you want to be a landlord?" And then I come into this room and there's 50, 60, 70 other people that are all in the same boat, that are patting me on the back saying, "Whoa, congratulations." And, "Oh yeah, here's how I'm handling this. Wow, you're setting yourself up for freedom." And these people are addicted to coming to our meetup because of the atmosphere that we created there. If it's love, it's support. So they show up and they sit at a table knowing nobody, and they sit down and they feel loved and cherished more than their best friends, their personal family, everything like that. They feel a better connection. So I 100% believe that you don't need to have a lifelong friendship with someone to have that connection. It can literally be created in one meetup. Or Synergy Mastermind, for an example, we created this group, people that didn't know each other, and in 1 year probably feel more loved and supported by each other than they do with a lot of their network outside of it. Because when you start getting around like-minded people, well, it's as simple as this. You're an average of 5 people that you hang out with the most. So look at the 5 people around you. If the 4 other people you hang with the most are alcoholics or like to drink, you're probably going to be the 5th person to drink. And I don't mean that as an alcoholic way, but I mean that honestly. If you're in a room and 4 other people are having a beer, you're more than likely going to want to have a beer. It's the same thing for success. If 4 other people in the room are buying real estate as an investment or making some investments, you're naturally going to want to learn about it so that you can get involved in it. So it can either be a blessing or a curse for the average of the 5 people you hang with the most, but just do a self audit of the 5 people closest to you in every category that you want to assess, and just start getting around the people that you actually want to be around that will support you in that.
Absolutely. Your network is your net worth. I mean, we've all heard that before 1,000 times. It's a cliche, but I love cliches because there's so much truth in them. But again, the key though is that it doesn't just happen. You have to create it. And so the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which is interesting to me, because you had mentioned that you got all this success in real estate and you really did a fast track. Like, you went from single family into multifamily into development, like within 5 years, less than 5 years. And that is incredible to me. But as you were finding all of the success, and even as a successful electrician, by the way, so for those of you who don't know Randy's backstory, so at 16, you were an apprentice, right? And then by 22, you were a ticketed electrician. And then you started managing multi-million-dollar projects, electrical projects with multiple crews. And so very successful as an electrician. And then you found very quick success in real estate, but yet you weren't fulfilled.
It was, yes. And what a weird concept to be in. Steve and I had some very big success early on with our monthly meetup. We started our meetup the minute we started in real estate, and that put us on a little bit of a pedestal. That's how we got people to take us seriously in this industry. We did our first 3 joint venture deals in 4 months. So we bought 3 properties in 4 months. We scaled that out. We bought a 5-plex. We started doing all like right away. Like we had investors that put $1 million cash into a project with us within our first 2 years of being around. So we had some great success. And then I remember sitting there just not fulfilled. Like, this is cool. Like, buying real estate's fun, but learning later now in life, one of my one of my love languages is acts of service. I love giving. I love helping. And one of the things why Steve and I get along so great is we just love being of service to people. And it wasn't until I was sitting there one day, my friend sent me a podcast, and it was of Cole Hatter. And Cole was talking about his life, of how he made millions in real estate, lost it all in the recession, went down to Mexico and just served, just worked for free as a missionary down there, and realized that was the happiest he'd ever been. It wasn't when he had his millions of dollars. It wasn't when he had his big real estate portfolio. It was when he was serving. And in that moment, I realized that's what I was missing. I love giving. I love helping people. I love supporting people. That's why I love the meetup. I loved bringing people and helping. So the meetup was actually my favorite part of real estate. Finding the joint venture partners and getting them returns and getting their money working for them. My favorite part. Finding my parents and teaching them about how money actually works. My favorite parts. And so from that moment on, I went to Cole's event, which he was running, which is called Thrive, Make Money Matter. Changed my life forever, learning about how to build a business that has a purpose behind it. So basically the concept is, if you want to make $1 million a year, build a business that makes $2 million a year and give $1 million away. And from that moment on, that changed how Steve and I did business forever. Every business we have has some sort of giving component to it. So, for example, right now we're building a 37 unit condo building. We're taking a portion of the profits and we're partnering with a local charity called Another Brick in Nepal, which is kind of funny. And we're going to go to Nepal and rebuild some schools. So that building is attached to that charity. We started doing that for every one of our projects. Now it's not about how big can we build a portfolio, but it's how big of an impact can we make in this world. And through the guidance and support of Cole Hatter and that entire mastermind community we're part of down there, that was the turning point for everything for me that drove me 10 times harder. I was already motivated, but then I went from being motivated to really wanting to change the world. Really motivated me even more.
So with your charities, well, first of all, saying make money matter, honestly, like MMM, like make money matter. If you make money and you spend it and you make it and you spend it, there's really no fulfillment there. And I think there's a lot of power behind that, saying make money matter. You do have a mantra that you live by, and I wanted to share that with the audience. Go big to give big. And I absolutely love that. It creates kind of the proper mindset in order to really feel like you have a sense of purpose in life rather than just going to work and adding to your portfolio, which I can attest to that too, doesn't really give you that sense of purpose. It doesn't really make you feel fulfilled. So yeah, go big to give big and find a way to make money matter. I just wanted to encompass that. And that really is what you and Steve do. And I absolutely love that model.
Can I just touch on the
Yeah,
go big to
absolutely.
give big for 2 seconds there, Danielle? So
Absolutely.
what that came from was when we went down to Thrive, we came back, we had our monthly meetup, and we were doing it for free. All of a sudden, it was like, and the reason we did it for free is because we wanted people to come in the door so we could show them what we did. They'd talk to us, they'd invest in our projects. It was a great lead gen for us. What we did when we got back was said, man, how can we take our free meetup and make it for purpose? How do we make it so that it gives back to a charity? All of a sudden we said, if we take all of the people that are interested, all of the speakers, and we just charge them the room night for the room, and then we charge people $5 to get in, we can donate 100% of the door to a charity that we like. And all of a sudden our mission went from, man, if we had 20 or 30 people in the room, that would be kind of fun because then we can, it's 20 or 30 leads, to, well, if it's $5 a person, if we could put 100 people in seats every single month, we can donate $500 a month consistently to this charity. All of a sudden our mindset changed forever. Our marketing went harder, everything went better because it became not about how many people can we get in for our leads. We sold, hey, if you come, you donate $5 at the door to this charity organization and you get to learn how to improve your life. It was a win-win-win on every side. And what Steve and I realized is that the bigger we go, the more we can give. And that's how we built out our real estate now is if we stay in single family, we make a little bit of money. We can do some kind of stuff, which is great. If we can go into development, we're starting to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a project instead of tens of thousands of dollars a project. So we're going to go bigger so we can give bigger. Now I'm able to write checks for 3, 4, 5 times, 100 times the amount that we were writing before to places like Another Brick in Nepal, which I never would have been able to done if I wasn't willing to step into my greatness and find that bigger thing. So the whole purpose behind Go Big to Give Big is inspiring entrepreneurs to go bigger with their dreams and goals so they can give bigger with their profits. And it's just become one of our most passionate things, and probably the thing that's inspired so many people the most is stop thinking so small, start thinking so much bigger, because when you think bigger, you can do so many better things.
And honestly, I think that was the underlying current at our mastermind this weekend. I think everybody was just blown away because we all think we're thinking big. And then all of a sudden, you bring in these speakers in front of us says, no, you're not thinking big enough. Go bigger. And so, and yes, absolutely. When we go bigger, we can give bigger. So yeah, that's the culture you've created. And I absolutely love that. And I thank you for sharing that with my audience here. So, what would you say, just one last question before we kind of wrap it up, and but what would you say was really the biggest challenge, like overcoming that mindset, kind of like what was the hardest thing you've done really, or maybe the lowest point that you hit that really kind of shifted for you? Like, because I know a lot of people have a lot of struggles when they're trying to, get their mind right, or everybody talks about this mindset stuff, but it doesn't really click until you hit that pain point. So what would you say was like the most difficult challenge or maybe realization that you had that kind of helped you?
Yeah, I'm going to take a turn here and share a story I've probably never really shared publicly, I don't think. Steve and I were having some great success in our business. We were just starting to grow, but both of us, when you're having that success and you're growing, started butting heads quite often. So we would start butting heads. And I honestly felt the least happiest I'd ever been in my business, in my life, period. We were on this trajectory. For those of you that are listening, we were on an upward trajectory and everything was so great to the public. Behind closed doors, Steve and I were struggling with the decisions we were making. We weren't happy together. We didn't know how to work as business partners. Both of our significant others were saying, you need to get out of this relationship. So Steve and I, at one point, were actually divvying up our assets and how we were going to approach people to liquidate our company. Never shared this before. Um,
Wow.
at that point, we both realized that we needed help. We'd done so much work in all the other components of our lives, except for personally, we'd never had intimate coaches. We've been coached in real estate, we've been coached in everything, we'd been coached by how to make money matter and all this stuff. Personally, we weren't right. It was hard. We don't come from backgrounds of success. We've never been around successful people. We've never learned how to have these intimate conversations about each other and how to run a business and how to do accounting and how to do all this stuff. So Steve and I made a decision to take a month apart from each other, and in that month we both got some sort of external support or coaching, and it changed our lives forever. We started working on ourselves individually, and when we came back together, we were just a whole different person, both of us. We were more calm, we were more cool, we understood each other better. We started asking questions to each other like, hey man, what upsets you today? What did I do that upsetted you? Instead of just butting heads and talking, it was actually listening, starting to listen more about like, how are you feeling right now? When I did this, how did it make you feel? When this was going on, what were you feeling? How did you want to change? Hey, what am I doing that pissed you off today, that made you angry? And how can I fix it? And that was probably the lowest point I had been inside the self-development journey, was having all the success, publicly people seeing us, having to stand up every single month and deliver to our meetup and put this face on. But internally, Steve and I couldn't even be in the same room together. To a month, maybe 2 months later, we took a Christmas break. We came back, and from that moment, we started things like Feedback Friday, where every Friday we would go somewhere where we could release stress. For us, it was golfing, and we would just share with each other things that frustrated us, and you couldn't rebuttal it, you couldn't rebate it. It was just, hey, this is what's pissing me off, and you just have to sit there and go, I 100% understand it, and I'm listening to you, and just sit there and just take it. And all of a sudden, Steve and I went from being best friends to business partners to hating each other to being business partners that absolutely love each other. And it was like rebuilding our relationship. And from there, that's when we started building our personal relationships better with our girlfriends, with our mentors, with other people. And we started to listen and really take self-development from being a surface level concept of learning how to meditate and learning how to do this, but actually getting coached and supported on who you are as a human. How do you listen? How do you help people? How do you show up? Who do you want to be when you show up to this conversation? All that stuff changed our lives. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it now because I don't like to share it too much because it's a hard conversation to have. But going from literally wanting to split the assets of your company to honestly saying that Steve is my best friend, absolutely love him, everything around it, it was probably one of the most lows to highs we had been through in such a short period of time.
And I think this is where a lot of people miss because they think a business relationship is just business, but there's an emotional aspect to that as well. And so it's like I just call it like a professional marriage. I mean, that I have partners in my business as well. And honestly, like, we do look at it as we're married, and we've said that from day one, and we do approach it as if we're in a relationship. And essentially we are in a relationship, but I think a lot of partners partner up and they don't take it that way. They just have the surface. So the other thing that you mentioned that I really want to kind of point out is, when you are in a relationship and it's not working, the default in our society is we try to tell the other person how to change. But what you said, which is key, so whether, for my audience, whether it's you're relating to this story on a professional or personal level, if you're having these struggles with a spouse or one of your children, at the end of the day, it has to come from within. So you have to really look at yourself, which, Randy, would you say that is probably the most hardest thing to do, is to be honest with yourself?
I can guarantee you, through the amount of money I've spent on personal coaching now, and learning, the hardest thing I've ever done was getting real with myself. Learning to look in the mirror and say, wow, am I really that much of a dick? Do I really force that much of the conversation? Do I really not listen to anything you're saying? Like, being told by multiple people that they don't feel heard by me when they talk to me, and sitting there and having to like comprehend that, instead of being like, our instinct is, no, I'm listening. No, I am listening. Instead of just sitting there and saying like, wow, maybe I don't listen. What what is it that I'm not listening to? And having to just, honestly, 18 months of crying more than I've cried, hating myself more than I've hated myself, like writing and journaling and drawing maps of how my life actually operates and works. It is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, was hire a personal coach that sits there with a mirror and just reflects everything back to you and makes you question your entire existence. Like everything that's made you successful, everything that's brought you to here. And then he's going, but what if you could have this life over here where you're a little bit happier, you're a little bit more enjoyed, your relationships are a little bit better, your marriage is a little bit better, your partnership's a little bit better. And you're like, no, but it's working. I'm having this success. We're growing. Everything's great. He says, yeah, but are you fulfilled? Are you happy? Yes, yes. When you start looking down and sitting down and understanding, now I sit there and I ask Steve, dude, what's going on? Why aren't you happy today? And I listen to him and I can feel every emotion. I guess goosebumps again, but I feel every emotion they're saying. I can pick up if he had a bad morning. If him and his girlfriend got in a fight in the morning and he comes into work, I'll pick it up instantly by the tone of his voice, how he operates, how he does. That changes everything of how I approach him for the day. He may not want to tell me that that happened, but if I can pick it up now, instead of saying, you know what, Steve, I wasn't really happy with how you did this, or, oh, we got to get this done, I can say, man, you look a little stressed today. Why don't you, let's go for lunch. Let's just completely change our narrative for the day. Let's go for lunch. And he's like, really? Let's go for lunch? I'm like, yeah, let's just go for lunch. I'm in control of that now. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's probably one of the most coolest feelings in the world. For me, my problem is not listening. Now the listening is actually how I can control my relationship in so many different levels and just be there to support people and help them, as opposed to just trying to impose my will on them.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So powerful. But again, it comes back to a life of service. And when you're there for others, then they're there for you back. I mean, it comes back tenfold. So, wow. Well, with that, Randy, I got to take a breath.
Heavy episode today.
Right. But it is absolutely the raw truth. And that's what I want to showcase for everybody. And especially, I want to thank you for being really vulnerable and sharing that story about you. And Steve, I'm sure coming out with that publicly is not easy. In the moment, it feels like a failure. It feels all of the negative stuff, emotions that show up. But I think sharing your story with the audience is going to really help a lot of people. And it validates that, hey, just because we're successful, we're up here, it doesn't come without struggles. It doesn't come easy. We do have to work. And now it's my turn to get goosebumps because I've also struggled. I resonate with all of that. And so that is part of the journey, but it is what gives you the foundation to get better and stronger. So, Randy Molland, my friend, I am super blessed that you came on the podcast today, and even more so grateful to have you as one of my friends and in my inner circle. So thank you so much for sharing with our audience today. Is there anything, if anybody maybe they want to look into working with you in the development side, is there, how would they reach out to you to maybe connect with you, and maybe even just to go to your monthly meetups or all of that stuff?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me personally is just on Facebook, honestly, at Randy Molland, and send me a message. That's where I get the most engagement. That's where I'm pretty active on, is there. And I would just encourage people, don't just send me a message that says, hey, we'd like to reach out and chat. Share some honest truth with me. Like, you want to get my attention, sharing some hard stories, sharing some struggles you're going through, sharing what's driving you, what you're passionate about. That is, I'm sure you can attest this, you get quite a few emails or inboxes on a weekly basis of like, hey, I want to learn how to buy real estate, can you help me? It's like, that doesn't excite me anymore. I want someone that sends me a DM that says, man, I listened to your podcast, I resonated with it, here's my story, here's what I want to achieve, and here's what I want to do. Those I respond to instantly. They take me 10 times more time than just sending a quick email back, but they have 10 times more meaning to me than actually doing it. So that's my thoughts. And if you guys want to check out anything else, just go to the reinvestors.ca. Lots of info there on a bunch of different stuff that we have going on, and a bunch of different areas that we're in.
I am so glad that you said Facebook and you're a millennial, because everybody is going to Instagram and I haven't yet really shifted over. I do have an Instagram account, but I feel archaic because everybody is doing Instagram and TikTok. And for me, I prefer Facebook too. So thank you for that, because that just made me feel good today. But yeah, guys, everybody who's listening to the podcast. Right, I know. Well, it's easy. It's easy. So for those of you who do want to reach out, we will have all of that information in the show notes. So we'll let you know where you can get a hold of him, reinvestors.ca, and Facebook's just Randy Molland, Molland. If you enjoyed the show today, please give us a like. That will help share and spread the word for other people who could take advantage of this. And of course, if there's somebody in your inner circle or your friends who could benefit from hearing the show, feel free to share. You can always subscribe as well. And if you hit that notification bell, you will not miss an episode. You will be notified every time we release a new episode. Randy Molland, my friend, I appreciate you more than you know. And I'm really so happy that you came on the show today and shared your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to see what you guys are up to with this and watching it grow and expand. I think it's going to be a lot of knowledge and a lot of great questions that aren't asked in the normal podcast that you guys are doing. So thank you for putting this on and having me on.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm chasing you, my friend. I am coming after you. With that, guys, until next time, this is Danielle Chason at the Let's Get Real Estate podcast. This is where real people are doing real estate. Bye for now.